Order, order. I'll call Mr. Ian Little-Granger in a moment to move the motion, then call the Minister to respond. There will not be an opportunity for the member in charge to wind up, as is the convention for 30-minute debates. Mr. Ian Little-Granger to move the motion. Ian.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And may I say how nice it is to serve under a Devon MP of great standing and has been an MP for a very long time. And you know your county better than most of us, and I'm delighted to be able to make this speech. It's unusual, I know, that in Westminster Hall we very rarely, when we're talking about our constituency, we can actually cross border in the way that the Tiverton and Minehead seat, as you now know, Mr. Streeter, has changed and is becoming Devon and Somerset. And it's a very good chance, I think, for us to discuss what I do remember back in the days when I was in Torridge and West Devon before my right honourable friend and learned friend for Torridge and West Devon. We were talking about potholes then, and that's 1997. What I think I've discovered when I was sort of digging around on Google and many of these other things, which I don't confess to completely understand, is just how contentiously difficult potholes are. I didn't know, but pothole sizes and potholes in the road have names. Now, I know this sounds interesting, and I'm just going to read some of you. The canyon, I think we can work that one out. The alligator, it's a little more tricky. The sniper, the slalom, the Alcatraz, and there are many more. And these are actually named on a website. So when you have your pothole, I think the minister, when he's up in Hexham, can look at it and say, there's an alligator, or there is Alcatraz. In the case of up in Northumberland, of course, that's the wall. And I think it's intriguing that it's become a sort of national sport. And in Devon, there actually is a Facebook site called Devon's Potholes. And if you look at it, it's actually fascinating how people are really quite incensed by something that really should be very simple to solve. I will say that just recently, in Watchet, in the Bridgewater and West Somerset constituency it is, we had a little bit of private road which hadn't been done up because it was private. And the Daily Mail actually filled in the potholes to help a 101-year-old being able to get in and out of their house. And that is sort of the national view of potholes. But to give you some of these ghastly statistics which we all live by in here, and I'll take, if I may, Devon first. In 2019, there were 50,000 reported potholes. I'm taking the round figure, of which they claim to have repaired 50,000. I find that convenient, like all local government statistics. But in 2022, there were 34,000. So there has been a reduction, of which they claim to have repaired 32,150. Again, okay, I hear what they say, given that we drive around the roads of Devon, that I think possibly not as, perhaps not as, dare I say, as straightforward as it may seem. I give a great pleasure.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. I'm out and about speaking to people across my part of Devon every single week, and our roads are a constant concern and grumble on the doorstep. Now, we all know that MPs in the region, across the region, have consistently campaigned for more funding to resurface and repair our roads, not just about potholes, but also resurfacing. By redirecting funds from the spiralling and, to be fair, deeply questionable cost of HS2, the government has delivered millions of pounds for our county to speed up pothole repairs. But thanks to the government boosting of its budget, Devon County Council is going to invest an extra £10 million this financial year into our roads, taking the highway maintenance budget to over £72 million. Does my honourable friend agree with me that Devon County Council are right to spend whatever it takes to get our roads back to the standard which we expect?
I thank my honourable friend. I know my honourable friend has championed Devon longer than I've had that opportunity to do so. And his gentle advice to myself about the situation on the roads, I greatly welcome, and I'm very grateful for the work he's done. I know he's worked very hard with the leader of Devon to make sure we secured the money, and I say we, and that's a very grand collectively we, and I know Mr. Streeter yourself was involved in that, and I think it's a very good piece of news indeed, and I am grateful to Devon, and 72 million is a huge amount, but it does show you, as I said, that it has become an endemic, that we never have enough money to do this. Although the claims are there, The reality is you drive around Devon, and I certainly know from your area, my honourable friend's seat, it's a never-ending battle, and it's a battle we almost fight. I, funnily enough, do not blame either Somerset or Devon for the situation we're in. This has gone on for so long, it's become almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. We have aspirations all the time. I give way with worry.
That's very generous of you, the member for somewhere in Somerset. Adverse weather also has massively contributed to the number of potholes in Somerset, and I'm sure the honourable member will come on to that. But does he agree with me that the government must recognise and focus on improving the future resilience of our roads, and that local authorities may need that specific funding allocations to improve the resilience of roads rather than just pothole funding? I'll leave him to the remainder of his prepared speech.
I will just reiterate again what I've already said about the amount of potholes in Somerset, because obviously not listening, but never mind, nothing tuned there. There are 60,000 potholes in 2022. I just reiterate that for the record, Mr. Streeter. And Somerset County, having worked with the leader now for 25 years, who covers a major part of the levels, which we know the roads move all the time because of the peat, it has been a never-ending battle in Somerset to try and stabilise roads which are unstable. And the cost after the 14 floods of rebuilding those roads was simply astronomical. But you can't not do it. And because peat is a natural resource, you cannot pile, you can't get deep enough. So therefore, whatever you do is a problem. And Somerset County has spent hugely over many, many years on roads. I'm not complaining that that is the situation. What I am saying is that money has to keep going. And unfortunately, as I said, it doesn't really work. Now, what I was interested in noting, that on the Devon website, the Devon County website, and my honourable friend actually helped me on this, there is an interactive map, which is quite incredible. No, and I didn't know this existed, Mr. Street, and I know you will, but you can actually fill in your pothole. So in your street, and if you look at fixmystreet.com, you can actually go onto these maps between the two, and you can find out exactly where your pothole is. You can report it, I can report it, anybody can report it, and we can then zone in the counties. Somerset doesn't have that, and I looked on the Somerset website, and this has been there for years, by the look of it, and they start off having a highway safety inspection manual, which always worries me when you get that on any website, because you just know that behind that is going to be a worry. I do accept that actually behind it is a system, but it is not as good as the one I've seen in Devon. And I will be urging Devon County to be able to, Somerset County, I'm going to get this confused all day, I can see this, Somerset County to actually adopt the system. Now, the Minister I know will reply and say quite rightly, we can give what we can give. There is no more. But to me, Mr. Streeter, one of the ways around this is we use technology. I was Googling machines that fill in potholes, and they are quite remarkable. They can do the middle, so all the names I've read out they can deal with. And they basically gouge out and they read it. Now, the Minister very kindly last night was telling me a little bit about some of these machines, and I went away and on the Minister's recommendation, I actually looked them up. And these are amazing. Now, maybe, just maybe what we need to do is that, for instance, Devon, Somerset, Cornwall, look at buying machines together as a collective. And that those machines then work the three counties. It doesn't have to be three counties, it can be any what you want. It could be a region if you so wish. I think it's a bit big. And that we use that technology, Mr. Streeter, to be able to deal with these holes. Of course I'd give way. It's a great privilege.
I wanted to try and assist my honourable friend, because what he is referring to is two key things. The first is, by reason of the HS2 funding, for the very first time, local authorities up and down the country, but particularly Devon and Somerset, are being given 7-year funding. So they have a certainty of supply of funding, which allows them to purchase new equipment and new machinery. He is referring, of course, to the Pothole Pro. There are other products out there. But the key point and the transformational point, by reason of the Prime Minister's decision in October of last year in respect of HS2 is not only is there an uplift in funding, but all the local authorities are now able to plan properly and purchase equipment so that the road maintenance is actually maintenance and upgrade rather than just filling potholes.
I'm incredibly grateful to the Minister, as always, and the Minister's right. I was going to come on to HS2, but I know the Minister sympathises. The Minister covers a huge rural constituency, bigger than any of ours in Devon. It's massive. And the road system up there is actually challenging, because I know I used to live in it. Not least of all because you have the military running all over part of your constituency, the Minister's constituency. But the Minister's right. We've got to embrace that money. And I think the message, if I can give anything today to all our colleagues, is that Devon and Somerset and other counties need to get together to start buying what I'm going to describe as very expensive machines, but very, very clever machines. Now, there are ways of doing it, and the Minister's right. The Prime Minister's led the way on this windfall, thank the Lord. I mean, it's marvellous to have it. And we should use that. We should use every penny we can. Now, there's no secret that in Devon, in Somerset, we do have a financial crisis. It's very difficult at the moment. We've managed to get through this year. It's fine. We're fine. Next year is not looking so good. We've got a lot of work to do. But you know, Mr. Streeter, if we don't do the work on things like roads, they just get worse. Then the money gets more. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. What we've got to do, I believe, is to help places like Devon, just haven't got the money. It goes for Buckinghamshire, it goes for many other counties who've got the same problem. Devon is not in the same position as my honourable friend has already said. The county has been extremely generous and has got it out of its own resources extra money, as we're all aware, and that is tremendous. But we do need to come up with a better system. Now, one of the things that has always struck me about this is that it is up to us, not just as MPs, but also down to councils, to make sure that we work to try to resolve this. All of us walk around our areas. We all drive. We all do whatever we do. How many times have we been down potholes? I quite often end up in hedgerows with punctures, as you can well imagine, given that you know my driving, Mr. Streeter, is not bearing much scrutiny in the way I drive. And it is infuriating. But if we don't say where the potholes are, then we cause a problem for ourselves. One of the biggest problems I think we all face is the size of tractors. Tractors, when we were young, dare I say, perhaps you and me, Mr. Streeter, just, have increased enormously. The size of tractors now are lane filling. Devon and Somerset roads were never designed for these sizes of tractors. They weren't designed for big lorries. They weren't designed for some of the big cars. But the weight of tractors has gone enormously through the roof. And what they now haul is hugely heavier than they used to. And that, I think you will see, is one of the biggest problems we face, Mr. Streeter, because they are causing more and more damage. And I know as you drive around both our counties, it's the structure of the sides of the roads that are causing the problems. And I just think we have to be much more aware that farming does damage roads, but there is nothing we can do about it. The farmers have every right to be there. They need to be there. But we need to cover that up. My last point before I sit down and give way to the Minister, because I know he's got a lot to say on this, is that I am really disappointed in certain parts of Devon, which I'm beginning to learn, as you can understand. And especially in Mid-Devon District Council, who I find just iniquitous. They should be scrutinising this sort of stuff. So should everyone else. I know it certainly happens in Somerset, and I know it's happening in Devon County. We wouldn't have got the money if it hadn't. But actually, that is the point. They should scrutinise. And to learn that the head of scrutiny has now legged it, because it's all got a bit tough and a bit hard and a bit whatever, is pathetic. We need to have proper scrutiny. And I find that ridiculous that we cannot get, in a minute, and we cannot get this sorted. And I just find that a ridiculous position for us to find ourselves in. And I really do think that some people need to start thinking about what they're there for. MPs have a responsibility. You see it every single day in newspapers, and we know what we suffer. I just wish a few of the councillors that are meant to be representing their areas would do the same. I give way.
I'm grateful to the Honourable Member and I commend him for applying for the speech and for securing this debate. Devon County Council is the local authority responsible for roads in Devon, and the leader of Devon County Council, John Hart, said last year that they gave us £9.5 million, but I hate to say it, £7 million of that went in inflation. That, he said, is a drop in the ocean. Doesn't the honourable member agree that actually it's the county council that's responsible for roads and that the potholes that we see is the responsibility ultimately of central government?
I can see why the honourable member is in the education call. Where does one start? I think a sigh to start with. That's better. I feel now fresh to go on, Mr. Streeter. John Hart, who I knew 30 years ago now, nearly, has led a council and has made massive differences. He's just announced he's going to stand down after a very long period, and I respect that. He's made £10 million available. He has taken his responsibility deadly serious. To do roads in Devon, where I think there's more roads than Belgium. Am I right, Mr. Street? I think that is right. Yes, I think it is. And that is a remarkable achievement. My honourable friend has made it quite clear that Devon has stepped up to the mark. Now, the honourable member of the Education Corps, God help us, scrutiny should be scrutiny. You can scrutinise anything you want. That is the point. And I've always found that the best way to scrutinise is take it down to a local level. Because we live with those potholes in our areas. We live with them, not just as MPs, but as constituents and members in district councils. And therefore I find the question iniquitously ridiculous. On that happy note, Mr. Streeter, I sit down. Thank you.
Roads and other transport infrastructure in Devon and Somerset. Minister to respond, Guy Oppenheim.
Well, Mr. Streeter, what a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And obviously, I accept and acknowledge that you are exceptionally interested in a debate when you have served so long for the constituents of the South West, that in the debate brought by my honourable friend for Bridgewater and Somerset. And I genuinely acknowledge the passion and the fervour, as always, that he brings to this particular issue. Can I commend him for the tone of his debate and also for the fact that he is sticking up for his constituents as he has done so very well for many a year. It is clearly something that all of us care about. There's no doubt whatsoever that all of our constituents are passionately concerned about the state of the roads that they have to utilise, whether that is as a driver, whether that is as a farmer, whether that is as doing logistics and delivery and as a part of a business, or whether that is trying to do active travel on an ongoing basis. All of that is affected, and all of us are conscious of that. And I think one has to look at the consequential decisions that the government has made over the last, just over a year in particular, to address some of those problems. Because if I look at the situation approximately 16, 18 months ago, and I look at the situation now, it is utterly transformed. It is transformed in three ways, because the core base budget that both local authorities had were substantial and had been going up on a periodic basis, but there is no doubt that it was a struggle. Without a shadow of a doubt, we will all acknowledge that, and to a lesser or greater degree between different local authorities up and down the country. But clearly, the first thing that happened was the spring budget of 2023, which saw a significant uplift to both local authorities, in this case, just under £5 million to Somerset and £9 million to Devon. And then subsequently, obviously, following the decision of the Prime Minister in October of last year, the decision in relation to HS2 has utterly transformed the funding increase, because there is a base increase of funding, ultimately of 30% in both local authorities' cases. Now, that is transformational funding. There's no question whatsoever. And the first, briefly.
I'm grateful to the Minister. He refers to transformational funding, but I think that would jar with the experience of constituents who I talk to in Devon. 966 claims were made for compensation from Devon residents amounting to £1.1 million last year between April and December. So would he like to comment on this disjuncture between, on the one hand, this transformational change that the Minister talks about, and on the other, the day-to-day experience of my constituents?
I've answered these matters on a repeat basis on the debate that, as of the 19th of December and other times, but simply put, the situation is this, is that on any situation, if you have a business or if you have a statutory undertaking and you increase a budget to address a problem of over 30%, there is no other part of the government infrastructure that has been increased in this way. There is no other local authorities up and down the country who've had the benefit of this in other parts of their portfolio. The factual reality is that the transport budget for highways maintenance has been dramatically addressed. No one is diminishing the impact of what has happened in the past and the day-to-day vicissitudes that people are having to do, whether it is on the Somerset levels or whether it is at the Slapton line, which I've debated in this House barely a month ago. There are clearly instances of that where these things need to be addressed. And frankly, the Prime Minister has taken a very bold decision, which is massively to his credit, to specifically address the problem. And I think that is to his credit to do that. And I very much make the case that that is on top of, obviously, record amounts of bus funding that is going in. There's significant increase in bus funding. There's the £2 bus fare. There's the BSIP money. There is the active travel budget that has gone in, considerable enhancements to both Devon of over £6 million, Somerset of over £3 million since 2020. There is massively increased support, obviously, for all forms of cycling and walking, but also one looks at then the rail station infrastructure that has increased, whether that is in Columpton or whether that is in other parts, which Prime Minister and Secretary of State for Transport have visited. There is a huge amount of investment that is going on. And no, I won't. With no disrespect, I'm going to try and address some of the many points that have been made, and not for the first time. My honourable friend went on for quite a while. Obviously, it was all worthwhile listening to, but it was certainly well beyond the 15 minutes. Clearly, the factual reality is that the Devon and Somerset, as I was trying to say, had received approximately a further £15 million of funding uplift in the spring budget of 2023, and then £10 million of additional maintenance funding in 23-24. The point I was trying to make to my honourable friend is that anyone who's ever worked as a parish councillor, district councillor, county councillor, or a member of parliament or run a department knows, if you have long-term budget, a 7-year budget, it is transformational. Any local authority leader will say to you, could I have some more money and could I know what I'm going to get over the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years? That is transformational. That exactly is what the PM has done. And that is why they can do different types of investment. Now, I make the significant point that we expect and hold local authorities to account. There are two things to address the point about accountability that my honourable friend raised. The first is many local authorities, I can't comment on individual specifics, subcontract a lot of this work to particular providers. Some are better than others. I cast no aspersions. But every year we are now requiring the local authorities to publish a plan. So they have to set out what they intend to do with this money, where they intend to do this money, and what we would encourage them to do so is two things. First of all, look at the quality of the work. So there is clearly a necessity on some occasions to do patching. All right? No one disputes that that doesn't happen. Of course, it must happen from time to time. But we want better quality work because, of course, the better quality work doesn't need repeat work. Secondly, clearly, they need to be looking after the road maintenance system itself, which involves making sure they have a sufficiency of gully suckers, doing the clearing of the road, ensuring the water is not on the road, so that they can deal with the winter weather in the usual way. We want them to do that, and we want them to be checking the quality so that they both follow the local authority guidance as to how it is this work should be done, and secondly, that then the local authority checks the quality, and I would personally strongly encourage them to get into arrangements with their subcontractors so that if this fails within, say, 3-month or 6-month or 9-month period of time, then, because we have all come across this up and down our constituencies, the odd occasion where a pothole is filled and then it is having to be refilled very quickly thereafter, that is a matter for the local authority to hold their contractors to account, or if they're doing it in-house, they need to hold it to account as well. This transformation clearly relates and dates back to the core funding, but also the highways maintenance funding. But I'm happy to say that both local authorities, and my honourable friend would want to look at this, would want to see that Devon and Somerset have published their plans, allowing all honourable members' constituents to see for themselves which roads will be resurfaced. In Somerset, for example, the A37 Whitstone Road in Shepton Mallet, the A39 Puritan Hill in Baldrip have already benefited from the additional funding, as has the 358 Cross Keys roundabout in Norton Fitzwarren and the B3090 Marston Road in Selwood. In Devon, roads from Axminster to Yarcombe, from Ashburton to Widworthy will also be resurfaced. All of that is by reason of the new money that has been coming in. But the funding formula also recognises and allocates funding to local authorities based on road length. Clearly, we acknowledge the particular circumstances of Devon. I've set out in this House how it receives effectively more money than virtually any other local authority by way of road length, and clearly by reason of its nature. And I accept, whilst my constituency is bigger, the situations of Devon are well known and well understood. The road enhancement as well, I want to briefly deal with. Clearly, the department has worked with the Western Gateway and the Peninsula Transport sub-national transport bodies to identify priorities for investment from our major road network and large local major road schemes programme. That has seen over £330 million worth of investment, subject to government approving the individual business case from local councils. Obviously, there's an outline business case and then a final business case. That includes improvements to the A361 North Devon Link Road, the 382 between Drum Bridges and Newton Abbot, the 379 Bridge Road in Exeter and the A38 in North Somerset, and good progress is made, as I understand it, in construction of the improvements to the North Devon Link Road, and I look forward to its completion later this year. I could go on at great length about the infrastructure investment in rail that has been absolutely substantial in this part of the world, and I see my honourable friend, the Rail Minister, has snuck into the room to laud and applaud the massive investment that has been made in rail. There is massive investment that has been made in the bus and public transport network, and clearly we have made further investment in terms of active travel, and I look forward to all of those taking place. I welcome my honourable friend's debate. I welcome his enthusiasm to hold local authorities to account so that they actually are going to ensure that the taxpayer, who we all serve, is going to get the outcome they see, and that the outcome that they see is going to be massive increase in investment, much better roads going forward, a long-term plan for local authorities, and better outcomes for all. And that is something we should all strive for.
Thank you. The question is that this House has considered roads and other transport infrastructure in Devon and Somerset. As many of that opinion say aye. Contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. Order. Order. We can now move on to our next debate. I think the protagonists are present. Okay, thank you. Where is Graham? There's Graham, yes. The Minister's having a chat with Graham. Could colleagues leaving please do so quickly and quietly? Just wait for the... Well done, Guy. Wheeling and dealing going on the floor of the chamber.